The fallout did not erupt all at once. It spread slowly, deliberately, like a fracture moving beneath the surface of something that once seemed unbreakable. In the days following the leak, Taylor found herself standing at the center of a storm that refused to settle, each hour bringing a new wave of scrutiny, speculation, and quiet judgment. What had once been her sanctuary, her work, her patience, her identity as a healer, now felt like a battlefield where every decision she had ever made was being re-examined under a harsh, unforgiving light. The accusations, carefully constructed and strategically released, began to take on a life of their own, no longer bound by facts but fueled by perception, by the ease with which doubt could be planted and allowed to grow. Taylor tried to hold onto control, to ground herself in logic and truth, but even she could feel the cracks forming. Every call from her legal team carried a new complication, every update revealing just how far-reaching the damage had become. Witness statements had surfaced, vague yet suggestive. Documents had been submitted that raised questions she could not immediately answer, and the narrative being built around her was one she did not recognize, yet could not easily dismantle. It was not just about defending herself anymore. It was about surviving something that had been designed to consume her completely. Deacon refused to step back. Where others saw the situation as something that required caution, distance, or even retreat, he saw it as a line that had finally been crossed beyond repair. The guilt he carried had transformed into something sharper, more focused, a determination that refused to be silenced. He could not undo the past, could not erase the chain of events that had led them here, but he could refuse to let Sheila dictate the outcome. And for the first time in a long time, he began to think not just about survival, but about confrontation, not the impulsive kind he had known before, but something calculated, something that required patience and clarity. He started asking questions, not loudly, not in ways that would draw attention, but carefully, deliberately, tracing the edges of something that felt too precise to be coincidence. The documents used against Taylor, the timing of the leak, the way the accusations had been framed, it all pointed to a level of coordination that went beyond a single act of malice. Sheila might have initiated it, but Deacon began to suspect she was not working alone. And that realization shifted everything, because it meant the threat they were facing was larger, more complex, and far more dangerous than they had initially believed. Meanwhile, the pressure on Taylor intensified. The hearing date approached faster than she was ready for, each passing day tightening the grip of uncertainty around her. She found herself questioning not just the accusations, but the system itself, the mechanisms that allowed something so carefully manipulated to gain traction so quickly. There were moments when doubt crept in, not about her innocence, but about her ability to prove it. Because truth, she was learning, was not always enough. Not when it was buried beneath layers of carefully crafted deception. Brooke watched it all unfold with a complicated mixture of emotions she could not easily reconcile. There was a part of her that remained convinced that this situation was the inevitable result of Taylor's choices, that aligning herself with Deacon had opened the door to consequences she should have anticipated. But there was another part, quieter but persistent, that recognized something was off, something that did not align with the narrative being presented. Brooke had seen manipulation before. She had lived through it, fought against it, survived it. And the more she observed the situation, the more she began to sense that this was not as straightforward as it appeared. Ridge stood between those perspectives, his internal conflict growing with each new development. His instinct was to protect, to stand by Taylor in a moment where she clearly needed support, but his history with deception, particularly where Thomas had been concerned, made him cautious in ways he did not fully trust. He wanted clarity, wanted certainty, but the situation offered neither. And so he remained in a state of tension, pulled between belief and doubt, between loyalty and the need to understand the full truth. Steffi and Thomas felt that tension most acutely. They saw their mother struggling, saw the way the situation was eroding her confidence, her stability, her sense of self. And yet, They also felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on them. They wanted to defend her, to stand beside her without hesitation, but the complexity of everything surrounding the case made that difficult in ways they had not expected. Thomas, in particular, found himself confronting a familiar fear, the fear of being wrong, of believing in something that might later unravel in a way that left lasting damage behind. But what none of them saw, what remained hidden beneath the surface of every development, was the quiet satisfaction of the one who had set it all in motion. Sheila had not rushed. She had anticipated every reaction, every possible shift in the narrative, every attempt to push back against the accusations. And she had prepared for them. The documents were not just convincing. They were layered, designed to withstand scrutiny, to create enough doubt that even the truth would struggle to find solid ground. The leak to the press had been only the beginning. There were more pieces in play, more elements waiting to be revealed at precisely the right moment. Because this was not just about destroying Taylor. It was about dismantling everything connected to her. The turning point came quietly. Deacon found it not through force, not through confrontation, but through persistence. A detail that did not align. This was what she had needed. Not reassurance, not empty support, but something tangible, something that could challenge the narrative being built against her. It was not a solution, not yet, but it was a direction. And that alone was enough to reignite something inside her that had been dangerously close to fading. Hope. But hope, in a situation like this, was not gentle. It was sharp, demanding, requiring action, clarity, and the willingness to face whatever truth might be uncovered. As the hearing approached, the tension reached its peak. Every character, every relationship, every hidden motive seemed to converge toward a single moment where everything would be forced into the open. And yet, even as they prepared, even as they believed they were beginning to regain control, one truth remained dangerously clear. They were still playing a game whose full rules had not yet been revealed. And somewhere, just beyond their reach, Sheila was already preparing her next move, her patience unwavering, her confidence intact, because she understood something they were only just beginning to realize. This was never meant to end quickly. This was meant to break them slowly. And she had only just begun.